Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is good. The journey starts today as we try to get those fantasy football trophies. And I'm talking starts it week number 5 with a Saturday special. Talking Thursday Night Football as well. I will cover the remainder of the contests for you later on this week. But if you guys are done with fantasy, don't forget Underdog Fantasy. Go sign up today. Use promo code COVER1. Pick 'em specials. You got rival matchups. Your fantasy season is not done. Don't forget to use promo code COVER1 when you do sign up for Underdog. It is always good fun. But let's start off with Thursday Night Football rapid fire with these LA Chargers taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. And I mean, they got some big problems. Season is basically done. You got to feel like the players are not even wanting to play for a Coach Staley anymore, and his exit is basically ready and, gift wrapped at this point. We got some bad news, man. Justin Herbert, he goes to the IR with that finger injury. He is no more for this season, so they're going to try to stick it with Easton Stick, and it's going to be tough because he doesn't have a whole lot of experience in the NFL. He came off almost a 200 spot this past week. Can you trust him to at least support your fantasy options in this offense? It is not necessarily a great situation, especially with the Raiders and the Vikings only putting up 3 points last week. We could see a really low-scoring contest this week. Easton Stick, low upside, mid-level to high-level risk. Nobody's touching that, but we're talking about, can he support the players around him? We also got Keenan Allen. He is ruled out of this contest with a heel injury. Big drop news. Don't like it whatsoever. Everybody that has Keenan on their team, it does suck. You got to find filler replacements. Who does benefit from all these injuries? Highly likely is Austin Eckler. He does get the low risk level play for me. Due in part 2, the PPR upside that should be coming his way via checkdowns and lots of rushing upside from this offense. It's going to be very difficult, tough sledding. You may be biting your fingernails a little bit because the Raiders defense can really, key in on an Austin Eckler this week. And it's going to be tough sledding. So hopefully you're going to get at least some PPR upside to get him over 12 points-ish in this contest. A TD would absolutely uplift him anywhere to the 15 to 18-point range, potentially, if he does have a decent game. So you got to fire up Austin Eckler this week, but it is going to come with some circumstance and potential lower levels of play. I'm still calling Eckler a low-level risk due to volume and PPR upside this week. Josh Kelly, low upside, TD upside does exist here as well, but I'm not trusting that this week. Likewise with a Jalen Guyton, high-level risk. Even though Keenan is out, someone's got to take the reps. It's probably not going to be Guyton. Who's it going to be? Josh Palmer. He is returned back from the injured reserve, so he should likely slot back into that Keenan Allen role, be the PPR safe option for this offense while you got Quentin Johnston on the low upside. Yes, okay, he's starting to see some more targets come his way. Made finally a good hand catch this past week. Will it continue? We shall see. But can Easton Stick support it all is the biggest question mark right now. Can we play a Josh Palmer? I think in your flex, I'd be okay with it. If it flex low-end wide receiver 3 or high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 potentially is here for Josh Palmer with the numbers. And then a mid-level TD upside risk for a Gerald Everett. He is also still dealing with the hip injury. Should suit up in this contest. I will update in the comments for injuries as they do come out. So Palmer is decently a decent play for you this week because volume should be there along with an Austin Eckler. Those Las Vegas Raiders taking on these Chargers tonight on Thursday Night Football. Like I'm saying, Raiders decided to go back with Aiden O'Connell, even though they were talking a Jimmy G resurrection of sorts to be playing. They're going to stick with Aiden O'Connell. They want that draft pick, man. Their season is done. It's about losing, man. What can you put on the field? And then we got to lose to get those draft picks. Low upside on the high-level risk for an Aiden O'Connell. He just hasn't done enough, man. While this guy can sling the football, at least in decent aspects, he's just not good enough. And will he ever figure it out? Highly unlikely for me. I was never an O'Connell supporter or a big fan of his game anyway, but low upside, high level risk. The biggest issue we do have is Josh Jacobs. He's dealing with a quad/knee injury. They say questionable. He's avoided the game time decision card on a short week, which I find to be very interesting. Could this be a decoy role type of situation where they rule out Jacobs a little bit later today? That is very possible as well, which means Zamir Zeus White and Amir Abdullah would take over the reins in this backfield. So I'm going to go on the predication that Josh Jacobs is hurt enough to cause a problem for our fantasy football team. So I'm calling a high-level injury risk, for a Josh Jacobs this week. Very tough to trust. And if you have no better options, I completely understand going and risking it. But if you can, there is potential. We got to wait and see until we understand if he is going to suit up in this contest. Even if he does, how healthy will he be? This is such a bad situation going into the fantasy football playoffs. So if Jacobs does not suit up, let's talk about what we believe could happen. Zamir Zeus White, I would put on the mid-level risk on this Chargers defense that does give up a lot of points to a lot of fantasy players, and Zamir White would get medium risk due to the volume, upside, and goal line potential that he would possess. But how much will this offense move down the field? Are we expecting 8 to 10 points for a Zeus? It is potential in half PPR. Amir Abdullah does have PPR upside on the mid-level risk as well. He will be the change of pace running back that we are looking for, a.k.a. the, Jerick McKinnon type of role, where he's got the speed, he's got the explosive ability still enough to at least provide some, elixir in the point productivity. So, it would be Zeus for the TD upside, where Amir Abdullah would give you maybe the, 5 to 8 points range in PPR upside, unless he finds his way into the end zone as well. Very difficult to trust this running back room. There is no kidding. Davante Adams, he's dealing with an illness right now, is questionable. I haven't seen anything that is going to suggest he will not suit up in this contest. So I believe he's on a low-level risk in this contest versus a lackluster Chargers secondary. Fire up Devontae everywhere you got him. Jacoby Myers, PPR upside on the mid-level risk, definitely does exist here as well. You just got to hope Aiden O'Connell can support it, man. Easton Stick versus Aiden O'Connell, man. In Week 15, yeah, you can't write a better script for the NFL. You could probably fire up Myers as the wide receiver, low-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, similarly to a Josh Palmer level of play. He has not played well with this quarterback at this point. The last several weeks, it has not been good for Myers. If you have better options, definitely take it. And Michael Mayer on the high-level risk just hasn't been integrated enough in this offense. Let's talk the Saturday special. Cincinnati Bengals taking on those Minnesota Vikings. Jake Browning, he's done more than enough to look good, man. 74 points so far since taking over as a starting quarterback. There's good upside here on the mid-level risk versus these Vikings, who do still play good defense versus quarterbacks and wide receivers. I still like Browning and how he's playing. Zach Taylor deserves a lot of credit for how he simplified this offense to a great degree for a Browning to make him feel comfortable, utilizing the running backs like a Joe Mixon and Chase Brown now coming off the IR and looking very good. I'm a big fan of Chase Brown, like I've been telling y'all. I think he's a very quality running back, potentially could take over Joe Mixon's role in the future. I wouldn't, think twice about that. It's very, very possible it could transpire. So, if you're streaming quarterbacks, Jake Browning definitely is one that I'm feeling okay to start once again this week, because he's giving you a good floor. Anywhere from 16 to 21 points is good, and I think I'll take it all day long in the first round of the fantasy football playoffs. Low risk for Joe Mixon, like I said, 4 weeks ago, he's impressed me. He looks lean, he looks quick, the burst is back, he looks encouraged and wanting to play football. Fire up Joe Mixon everywhere you got him on the low-level risk. Even though the Vikings front seven is still very good, I think Joe Mixon's role in this offense will continue with volume as they continue to try to make Browning more comfortable. Chase Brown does get a mid-level risk for me. Surprisingly enough, I do believe that they will continue the split backfield and give him touches where they require them. So Chase Brown, can we start him? That's the question. It is going to be high risk for the potential of high-end total points if you're looking for him. I think that, the screen passes that they are giving him, he's going to lose out on goal line upside to a Joe Mixon, so it is going to be the plays that are scripted specifically for him. He will get his 6 to 8 carries in this contest, but he will be utilized in that pass game as well, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. How much volume will he get? So it's all determined on his efficiency rates. If you got better options, obviously take him, because Chase is not necessarily greatly fantasy viable at this point, but I got a mid-level risk thinking he could still do some business. Jamar Chase on the low-level risk for me. You got to play him, man. It's Chase. We got to start our studs. This is fantasy football playoffs. We drafted them for a reason, even though situation and circumstance has changed here without Joey B. Chase is going to at least, he said he's playing this week, even though he's on the injury report with the ankle, so you got to believe Jamar Chase will be ready to go for this contest. Fire him up. T. Higgins on the low upside with a mid-level risk. Came back to almost, 8 points, half PPR this past week. You almost got to feel, can Browning support it to high levels of, extreme consistency in this offense? I'm still debating that, if he can spread it around to all of his wide receivers while they're utilizing the running backs. That's why I got him on the low upside, mid-level risk, flex option. Low-end wide receiver 2 is potential here with some touchdown upside. Tyler Boyd is still on the injury risk and will take a big shot down. I've seen him dropped a lot on waiver wires right now. Not a lot of people trusting him, including myself. Tanner Hudson, on the other hand, PPR floor, and then we saw him score the touchdown touchdown this past week. I like this kid's game, and the way they're utilizing the tight end finally in Cincinnati is very good stuff. So, I mean, safety blanket for any a youthful quarterback that doesn't have a lot of experience. The tight end usually gets their sprinkles. Safe floor for a Hudson when it comes to tight ends. Minnesota Vikings taking on those Bengals, like I'm saying. Nick Mullins time. There is no more Josh Dobbs. It's tough for Dobbs, man. I mean, he comes out the gates firing strong. The teams get tape on him, and they understand how to utilize, every ounce of their defense against him. So this is why Josh Dobbs has been relegated back to the bench. Nick Mullins, we'll see. We know what Nick Mullins can do on this field. He's kind of a little bit of a gunslinger in that sense as well. He will try to support his wide receivers. Justin Jefferson dealing with that chest injury after getting smoked. I thought it was going to be a kidney laceration like Travis Hunter from Colorado, but I mean, he came out better. No worse for wear. He should suit up in this contest as well. Alexander Mattison dealing with an ankle as well. I'm hearing that he's on the wrong side of playing, but this could definitely change before we get to Saturday as they do, work on that ankle. Nick Mullins on the mid-level risk. I'm not playing it this week, but I do believe there is ability to support this offense, which is good. So if Matty does sit, he's got the high-end injury risk for me. Ty Chandler would get on the mid-level risk with volume upside potential and TD goal line upside. So I do like Ty Chandler this week. If you had to replace Alexander Mattison, if you had better running backs, I don't know if he's going to be able to overtake them in fantasy point productivity, but if you had Alexander Mattison and you were able to take Chandler, he's a definite easy fill-in for me. Should have a lot of volume. You can fire him up in that circumstance. Justin Jefferson, low-level risk. He says he's playing, and I mean, he wants to do some damage. Fire him up everywhere you got him. Just like Jamar Chase, you got to fire up your studs this week. Fire up JJ without even thinking. Jordan Addison, Addy, my guy. 6 boom games, 141 points, and we haven't seen near even close to that these past 3 weeks, which has bothered me. Get this man the football. Yes, he's had a couple drops, led to a couple Dobbs interceptions. It's not been ideal for an Addison, but this week TD upside does exist on the mid-level with a Nick Mullins. He's going to be able to at least support these wide receivers to some level of degree. It is a tough trust for an Addy this week. So again, other options, you're going to have to debate them to say, do I start like a Josh Palmer over an Addison? These are the questions that are going to be, in your mind, and you're going to be thinking about it. So Addy, to me, there is some TD upside with a Mullins, as he's going to be able to sling the ball, as there isn't a lot of tape in this Vikings offense. So the Cincinnati Bengals will have to understand and adjust on the fly in this contest. But Addison, to me, is a decent start. Wide receiver, low-end wide receiver, 2 numbers, again, could potentially be here. 10 points should happen, man. It's been too long. At least find this man to go into the end zone. That should help and support us. KJ Osborne, high-level risk with JJ and Addison back on the field, and TJ Hockenson on the mid-level. Well, I'm saying inexperienced quarterbacks usually go to the safety blanket. We could see Mullins isn't necessarily inexperienced. He just hasn't had a lot of playing time in the last several years. So, I mean, there could be some upside here for safety blanket, PPR upside appeal. You're still firing up TJ Hockenson everywhere you got him. Indianapolis Colts taking on those Pittsburgh Steelers on Saturday. Special. Gardner Minshew, Mustache Minshew. He's moving this offense enough. This is a big contest. Both 7-6 teams. They both require to stay pace in this NFL playoff race. Minshew on the mid-level risk. He's doing enough? Is he doing great? I mean, anywhere from 11 to 15. It's enough for streaming quarterbacks to at least get some point productivity. He won't wow you with a 20-point contest, especially versus Pittsburgh Steelers defense that will come after him with the rush, even though Pittsburgh's defense is dealing with some level of injury as well. We should see them all suit up this week mid-level. I would look in other streaming directions than a Gardner Minshew this week. Zach Moss, he's tapered off since starting the season extremely fast and well. He's getting volume. He's just not getting the efficiency rate. So, I mean, he's kind of falling back down to earth where I'm kind of getting a little lukewarm on the play this week versus stout Pittsburgh Steelers run defense. So if you got better options here, I would definitely take them over a Zach Moss. If you don't, at least you know you're going to get volume upside. Michael Pittman on the low-level risk. 10 boom games for this man. Almost 180 points, 173, and they are force-feeding him at the detriment of everybody else in this wide receiver room, man. Pierce and Downs, they're only getting sprinkles that can potentially give us some support, but Michael Pittman is an absolute shoe-in start this week, and he has absolutely been killing it for us, man. 10 boom games, just killing it with the PPR upside. Alec Pierce is on the high-level boomer bust, not trusting it this week. Josh Downs on the low upside mid-level because one of these games he's going to break out. It's not been good since he's come back from the knee injury this week in the playoffs. I am not trusting Downs this week. I got to put him on my bench. I have no other choice. you got to look for better options because it's just been far too inconsistent and the floor has been very poor. Giving us 3 points half PPR is not good enough. No bueno. And then Kyler Granson continues on the high-level risk because Gardner Minshew just doesn't support enough wide receiver talent in this room. Pittsburgh Steelers taking on those Colts. Mitchell Trubisky, he's got the mid-level risk. Okay, he's going to give you the turnovers, but at least he's going to sling the football. He knows this is like his last kick in the can. He will get still offers even if Pittsburgh lets go of him this next season. But, I mean, he's going to let it go. He's going to make mistakes. It's Trubisky, but at least he figured something out as that game was going on last week. Mid-level risk is decent enough for 200 yards plus and at least one touchdown score. There could be some interceptions or fumbles versus the Colts, but the Colts do give up a lot of points to the offenses, so I don't want to play Trubisky this week. Again, it's still in the same mantra of all these backup quarterbacks. Can they support the offense that we require? Najee Harris, TD upside, low-level risk for me. He's, versus defense in Indy that does give an hemorrhage a lot of points to running backs. I'm absolutely trusting Najee and Jalen Warren this week. Low-level risk for Jalen Warren, TD upside for a Najee Harris. They should absolutely lean on the ground game to support a Mitchy Biscuits. If they don't, I think it's a grave failure by this coaching staff. Run the football and give some play action upside for a Mitchy Biscuits. It should be good. Mitchell Trubisky, George Pickens on the mid-level. It's been kind of a hurtful season for George. We really thought that he was going to be in the 200 range at this point. TD upside for days just has not transpired. Not enough great options for George. He's visibly frustrated, I should say, on the field with the lack of point productivity. Mid-level risk, I would look other directions than George Pickens this week. Deontay Johnson, on the other hand, he's dealing with a knee injury, is questionable, should be fine. Najee on the knee, questionable as well, should be good to go as well. I got good mid-level PPR upside for him as well. Mitchell Trubisky does have some chemistry with him, and it did look good this past week. I think they're going to continue down that path. Deontay starts this week. I do believe you can play him in your flex. He is a good option for at least a good floor for PPR upside, man. Pat Freiermuth, the Muth, killed us last week after booming the past week before. I got TD upside on the mid-level risk for this, man. I mean, as long as Trubisky got a full week of practice, full week of reps with the first team, we should see a little bit more come out of this offense. And Pat Freiermuth, I can feel like we could start him this week with some potential TD upside. Denver Broncos taking on those Detroit Lions on the nightcap on Saturday. Russell Wilson, low-level risk for me. 10 boom games. Okay, this offense is not moving to high-end levels, but at least they continued on the path of giving us fantasy point productivity. It's what we require. Streaming quarterbacks, you can absolutely trust a Russell Wilson this week. Anywhere from 16 to 20 points should be coming in what could be something of a little bit of a shootout, even though the Broncos defense will try to stymie the Detroit Lions. Javonte Williams on the mid-level risk. Detroit does do well versus running back, so this could be a little bit of a capper when it comes to 10-point productivity. You got to hope he finds his way back into that end zone again to uplift over the top. Javonte Williams is a tricky play this week, but you got him for a reason. Likely you're running back too, man. Pete Ryan on the low upside, dealing with a knees questionable. They had a vet rest day on Wednesday, so he should be good to go as well. Not trusting that this week. Jerry Jeudy, you mofo. I preached you up last week thinking it was going to be good. And here's the thing. It could have been really good. He had like 4 drops on big plays, end zone tosses. Jerry absolutely crippled us this past week. If you played him because of my advice, I apologize. But I mean, Jerry Jeudy, that was the contest to be had. And they were forcing the ball. The targets were there. The opportunities were there. And Jerry was dropping the footballs. I'm out with Jerry. Low upside on the mid-level. I'm not trusting it this week. He can go back to the waiver wire or your bench if that's how you want to play it, man. Cortland Sutton, somehow he, quiet through 3 quarters. And then he gets a massive touchdown on a crazy catch. Low-level risk for me. He's doing enough to be your wide receiver 2 in most leagues at this point. Half PPR. I'm okay with Cortland Sutton this week. Once again, fire him up everywhere you got him. Marvin Mims and Adam Troutman are way too volatile for me to trust. I am not doing that. The Detroit Lions to finish it off. Last team for Saturday football. And I mean, this contest is going to be very interesting because Jared Goff and these Lions have been struggling. Jared Goff, in particular, has been struggling quite a bit these last 3 weeks. Can we trust it if you're streaming on Jared Goff? I don't really think so. I'm pretty good with sitting him this week, putting him on the mid-level because there is potential upside in this offense because it is very good. But I think the MO in this contest is you got to run the football and you got to run it a lot. Set up that play-action pass and hope that you can at least recreate the run with Amon-Ra St. Brown if it does get stifled. But I mean, the way that David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been running the football, absolutely you fire up both these individuals because it's been good. If they find their way into the end zone, it's great. If they don't, you're still getting your 10-point floor, which is absolutely fantastic from your running back. So Jared Goff, sit. Monty and Gibby, I am firing up on the low-level risk without any concern. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, I'm putting him on the mid-level, but you're obviously playing him this week. I mean, Patrick Surtain, this defense has been playing very well ever since Sean Payton, released all the players from the defensive side. I mean, this defense has been absolutely fantastic in Denver, and they will give this Detroit Lions some problems. Detroit 9-4 right now. This is a must-win contest for them as they continue to move forward, as they've been dropping games lately. Amon-Ra is still a must-start 11-boom games, even though he's coming off a bust this past week. Didn't do very well. J-Mo, Josh Reynolds, high-level risk in this contest for me, but somebody will have to take the lead in this contest. So I'm just so baffled in how the lack of usage for J-Mo continues to be. They give him a couple, plays here and there, little gadgets, and then he's basically done for the contest. I don't like it. This is a big problem in this offense. You got to integrate J-Mo more, but we can't trust it in fantasy. And Josh Reynolds maybe gets a TD upside, but I'm staying away from these guys this week as well. And Sam Laporta on the low-level risk. He did come off another bust contest this past week. Should be back to the goods as they should, play action pass, like I'm saying, short options to Sam Laporta. Fire him up everywhere you got him because, this is crunch time, and we require these victories to win those trophies. But here it is, man. Saturday special with a little Thursday night twist. And I got you covered for all the rest of the contest on Sunday, either dropping Friday or Saturday. Have not decided yet. I'm going through all the business for y'all so we could get these victories here in the first round of the Fantasy Football Playoffs. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts. You got any start-sit questions for these contests? Throw them in the comments. I will definitely get back to y'all. But we'll see you next time. I am out.